Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. Going to have a look at weather next week's 10 days for today's second video. That's going to take us to around the 19th of July. So we're progressing on through July now with the week's 10-day video updates. We'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles. They run to around a couple of weeks, and we'll have a look at CFSV2 as usual for the next month as well at the end of the video. We've just released the ECMWF 30-day look ahead. So that's taking us into the beginning of August with the ECM model for the UK and for Europe as well. So very cool across northern and eastern parts of Europe at the moment. It's warmer out here in the west, and that's a broad sort of setup I'm going to keep for much of July, seemingly, if the ECM is right about that. But have a look at the EC 30-day update and see what's going on. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to say a big thank you to our latest donor. So we have had a new donation from Jake March Jones. Jake March Jones has become Gazworthy's latest donor. So a big thank you, Jake, for doing that. Jake is one of our commenters on the comment section at Gazworthy. So a big thank you to Jake for becoming our latest donor. If you would like to become a donor and give a donation to Gazworthy, all you need to do is come to Gazworthy's PayPal page, you sign into your PayPal account, and give a one-off donation to Gazworthy. And if you do that, you get a mention in videos. We'll say thank you very much to you for doing that. As long as you want one, of course, some people have chosen to stay anonymous with this. That's absolutely fine. If you would rather stay anonymous, then just leave a little note with your donation and let us know that that's what you prefer, and that's absolutely fine if you would rather do that. Otherwise, you get a shout out in videos and say thank you so much for you for doing that. Alternatively, you can become a patron for Gazworthy. So this is Gazworthy's Patreon page. So we have 63 patrons at the moment. Hello to all of our patrons. If you would like to become a patron for Gazworthy, then all you need to do is come to the Gazworthy's Patreon page. We'll link to all of these pages at gazworthys.com and in the descriptions at YouTube with videos. So you just come here, you sign up for a Patreon account, assuming that you don't already have one. And you will get a mention in videos after you become a patron. Gazworthy will say thank you so much to you for doing that. So, big thank you to all of our patrons. Big thank you to all of our donors. You are helping us to pay for gazworthys.com and keep content online. So, big thank you to all of the patrons and donors. And a special thank you to Jake March Jones for becoming our latest donor. Big thank you, Jake, for doing that. Right, so let's get on, and we'll start off by having a look at what's happening in the tropics then. So we haven't looked at this for a little while. Still very, very early in the season, of course. It's only the 9th of July, so the hurricane season, tropical storm season in the Atlantic is primarily sort of August, September, particularly September and October. Those are the two really active months, so really early in this season. But we have got a disturbance actually here. This is from the National Hurricane Centre, which of course is part of NOAA. We have got a disturbance just here. Unusually, it's inland. This is I've been looking at this for a couple of days, keeping an eye on it. This is a trough that's developed across southeastern parts of America. And it looks like it's going to move down into the Gulf of Mexico, and it might develop into a storm. Normally, of course, we know what usually happens is that you'll get areas of thunderstorms developing here, kind of like off the coast of Africa, that sort of area, and then they develop into sort of areas of low pressure as they head that way, and eventually they can become either tropical storms or potentially even hurricanes as they move in towards the Caribbean and then over towards the Gulf. What's happened here is quite unusual with this trough of low pressure developing inland in America, because normally actually what these storms do is they move through the Caribbean into the Gulf, head up into America and sort of die inland. So this is doing it the other way around, really. This is doing it the opposite way to what normally happens, where if a trough is developed inland in the States, it looks like it's going to move southwards into the Gulf, and it might develop into a tropical feature. So let's see what they're saying about this. So it's got a 40% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours. In the next 48 hours. It's disturbance 1. So they're saying at National Hurricane Centre a trough of low pressure located over southwestern Georgia is producing disorganised showers. This disturbance is expected to move southward or southwestward during the next day or so, and a broad area of low pressure is forecast to form over the northeastern Gulf of Mexico on Wednesday, tomorrow. Once the disturbance is over water, environmental conditions are expected to be conducive for development, and a tropical depression is likely to form by the end of the week while the system moves westward across the northern Gulf of Mexico. It's rather complicated, rather involved, but it looks like some sort of tropical system will be getting going through the course of this week. Regardless of whether or not a tropical cyclone develops, this system has the potential to produce heavy rainfall along portions of the northern and northeastern US Gulf Coast later this week. For more information about rainfall threat, please see products issued by your local weather forecast office and the NOAA, the NOAA Weather Prediction Centre. Interest along the Gulf Coast from the upper Texas coast to the western Florida Peninsula should monitor the progress of this system. So it's certainly one to keep an eye on. They're giving it a 40% chance of cyclone formation within the next 2 days, but an 80% chance, a high chance, that this is going to form a tropical cyclone in the next 5 days. So want to keep an eye on this. So what's happened with this trough heading out into the Gulf from kind of like inland America is quite unusual, I think, and it's going to be one to keep an eye on whether this does develop into something significant as it meets the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. It looks like it could be up and running with this particular season, so we shall keep monitoring that over the next few days. Right, come back to home. This is how the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles are looking for the next couple of weeks. Looking at Cardiff in Wales today. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Cardiff, and we can see that at the moment we're a little bit warmer than average. It's quite warm and humid out there today. I'm going to say pretty warm over the next couple of days before temperatures dip a little bit at the end of the week and into the weekend. However, we will have an area of high pressure over the weekend, so although kind of like the upper air temperatures will be lowering a bit, actually the sunshine is still going to be very pleasantly warm. Beyond that, as we go into the second half of July, that's this period just here, of course, for a while the upper air temperatures are close to average, but as we get through towards the final week of July, we have got a lot of scatter, and you'll notice there are still these hot outlier members appearing up here. This is something we've been just focusing on or mentioning over the last couple of days in the videos. There is the chance that the final week of July could turn a lot hotter. Some of these ensemble members are kind of like going up above 15 degrees at 8, 10 to 15 HPA. That would get us again into the 30 Celsius. At the same time, there are these cooler outlier members down here though. So this is turning out to be quite a uncertain period. It's extended range stuff anyway, so I mean it's over 10 days away this, but it's potentially going to be, it could potentially be our next hot spell in the final week of July, I think. But again, it's a very long way off. There's a lot of scatter within the GFS ensemble, so at the moment it's just one to watch, one to keep an eye on, and we'll see what happens. Precipitation wise, it looks very dry for Cardiff up to the middle part of the month. They may be going a bit more unsettled in the second half of the month. Now, this is for the southwest of the country, so we're close to the ridge of high pressure. It's just sitting to our west-southwest. So drier conditions here. Further north and east, this graph would look a lot wetter, I think. So there's a greater chance of heavy showers breaking out and having outbreaks of rain further north and east of Cardiff. But it is an indication that for the west and the southwest anyway, you're likely to have quite a lot of dry weather actually up to the second half of July. Temperature anomalies from the 9th through to the 17th of July looking like that. Most parts of Europe looking significantly cooler than average. Out in the far west of Europe, around the UK and Ireland, we're close to or a little bit above average. It's not a big deviation, but it's a little bit warmer than average in the far west of Europe. Precipitation anomalies are looking like this. Bit of a north-south split for the UK, so much of England and Wales actually coming out average to dry than average. Scotland is coming out a little bit wetter than average, so a proper north-south split going on. Scandinavia looks very dry, and much of France looking very dry as well. This is how the very latest 6 o'clock run of the GFS is looking. So on Friday, now this is a ridge of high pressure. It's probably going to keep it mainly dry in the far west. It's this area of high pressure just here, this extension from the Azores High. So that's why the ensemble for Cardiff looks relatively dry up to the middle part of the month. We do have this trough in the North Sea. That could produce some heavy showers Wednesday, Thursday, Friday across central and eastern parts of the country. Moving through to the weekend, the high pressure increasingly building in from the Atlantic, so lots of dry weather coming up over the weekend. It's going to be a really nice weekend, actually. Humidity, which is going to be pretty high over the next few days. Humidity will lower over the weekend, so it's going to freshen up a little bit, but it's going to feel very warm in the July sunshine. There will be plenty of sunshine coming up over the weekend, I think. So a very, very nice weekend. Temperature kind of like low to mid-20s with low humidity. It's going to be a really nice weekend. You can almost hear those barbecues sizzling already. That takes us into the early part of next week, and we are still under this ridge of high pressure, so lots of dry weather continuing into the early part of next week. Midweek next week, so this is Wednesday 17th of July, just finds that ridge beginning to weaken a little bit. Low pressure is starting to try and move in from off the Atlantic. However, even at this point, it's probably still mainly dry for England and Wales. It's not till the second half of next week, but it looks like things are turning a little bit more unsettled. It's not desperately so, just a trough moving in from the Atlantic, probably providing enough instability to produce more heavy showers in the second half of next week. That is the scenario for day 10, which is Friday 19th of July. Into the extended range of this GFS, we keep this sort of trough feature going, so probably more showers likely with that. And then eventually we start to get a build of high pressure right at the very end of this GFS run, which is Thursday the 25th of July. We're beginning to get a ridge building over and to the north of the UK. Notice this cut-off low in the middle of the Atlantic. It's quite an interesting scenario. We've got this low pressure just here, but at the same time we've got high pressure building from France through the UK and going up to our north as well. There would be the potential with that to possibly start to drag up some very hot air from the south or the southeast. So I would have thought those ensemble members that we've been talking about within the very extended range of the GFS, kind of like these hot outlier ensemble members just here, those ensemble members are probably producing that hot weather from this sort of scenario with low pressure coming cut off in the middle of the Atlantic and a ridge building over to the north and the east of the UK. The squeeze of the isobars, the squeeze of the wind direction with that will drag hotter air up from the south. I doubt at this point the upper air temperatures are overly hot, so they're not particularly, but you can see the hot air is down there to our south across North Africa, Spain, Portugal, just into the far south of France. And so you will start to expect, anyway, to begin to suck up that hot air from the south with this cut-off low in the middle of the Atlantic. So again, that's probably the way that we get to a hot spell in the final week of July, if it comes off. Of course, it's a very long way out. It's over 2 weeks away. So there's very low confidence on this happening, but it's just something to keep an eye on. This is the GEM, and again, we've got that showery trough sitting over to the east of us on Friday, a ridge building in the Atlantic into the weekend. This area of high pressure taking over from the west, bringing a lot of dry and increasingly fine weather over the weekend. That high pressure, that ridge lasts into the early part of next week as well. Then it begins to break down through to the middle part of next week, just start to turn a bit more showery. And then I think you can say the GM actually turns things unsettled into the second half of next week. This is day 10, Friday 19th of July. And then an actual area of low pressure is coming in from off the Atlantic. So this is more unsettled than what the GFS is showing at day 10. The GFS is just, let's say, showery, whereas this is genuinely unsettled stuff. This will be outbreaks of rain moving in across the whole country from the Atlantic. And notice again quite a lot of northern blocking up to our north with the GEM. Plenty of high pressure sitting up around Greenland and back in towards the North Pole. I'm not sure the GFS has that northern blocking to the same extent at day 10. ECM, again, we've got this showery trough on Friday, moving into the North Sea, allowing high pressure to build in from the Atlantic. So high pressure takes over the weekend, bringing increasing amounts of dry, fine and warm weather. That high pressure sticks with us as we get through to the early part of next week. So next week will begin dry, fine and potentially very warm through Monday and Tuesday. Then high pressure begins to weaken through the middle part of next week, and low pressure starts to get more of an influence. Now the position with this low pressure is a little bit different compared to the GFS and the ECM. So there is uncertainty from as early as the middle of next week about how this high pressure breaks down. This is more of a warmer but thundery scenario with the ECM through the second half of next week. We've got the low pressure to the south, so that'll probably have quite warm air associated with it, probably be quite humid, but it will also potentially be rather thundery. So out of the three models, the ECM looks like it's the most thundery with the breakdown through the middle part of next week. The other two are just bringing showery conditions in from off the Atlantic, whereas the ECM looks like it's bringing up thundery type weather from France. So uncertainty there. That's how we finish up at day 10 with the ECM. High pressure is sitting to our north, low pressure is across France to the south-southeast. Probably still bringing thundery rain to southern southeast parts of the country, mainly dry to the north. Again, this is quite extensive high pressure that we've got here to our north. So again, we see signs of this unusual summer pattern that we've had right away since May, with northern blocking very much involved anyway in the weather patterns at the moment, and still there at day 10. Let's have a look at these scenarios that we've got within the ECM ensembles today for day 10, which is, of course, the 19th of July. So, it's from the Icelandic Met Office as well, by the way. So, we've got the 17 members just here that have, they're very unsettled. They have low pressure over top of the UK and high pressure up towards Greenland. So, obviously, that's a very cool and unsettled scenario, to say the least. So, very unsettled with those 17. There's 12, including the operational run. Looking like this. They have above average heights kind of like out to our west, so with a northern block, seeing low pressure to the south. That's kind of like the thundery low that breaks down the high pressure in the middle of next week. So with that, the driest weather would be in the north and wettest weather would be in the south. There's 11, including the ECM control run, that bring low pressure through the country as well. That's an unsettled scenario. Notice again a lot of northern blocking up to our north, and then there's 11 down here that have high pressure again around Greenland and Iceland, low pressure to our south and southeast. So again, rather cool, rather showery with those. It does look as though day 10 is rather unsettled with the ECM ensembles at the moment. In 2 weeks' time, that's wrong. There we go. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. So this is for the 24th of July. We've got 19 members of the ECM ensembles with above average heights out to our north and northwest, extending through the country though, so a reasonable amount of dry weather probably on offer with those. Winds kind of like east, maybe a bit northeasty, so probably not all that warm, but relatively dry conditions with those, I would have thought. There's 19 with the above average heights to the south and a bit to the north, then otherwise just sort of average heights, all looking a bit flat though, and I suspect probably a bit over top with those lows that I've put in, but probably rather unsettled with those 19. And then these are the best ones for dry warm weather. We've got 13 just here with a ridge of high pressure over the top of the UK. Obviously the jet streams push northwards with those, so they're the most summer-like. Those 13 just there. Maybe a trend within the ECM ensembles, similar to what we see within the GFS ensembles, to start shifting us towards something drier, potentially warmer, even hotter for the final week of July. We shall see about that. Finally, CFS-V2, these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first weekly period will take us from the 9th of July through to the 15th, the coming week, with above average heights very close to the country and going north, so a lot of dry weather on offer this week, although it will be turning more showery Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the east. Then we go through to week 2, which is the 16th to 22nd of July. This is a bit different compared to what the CFS has been showing in recent days. It has above average heights to our north, below average heights to our west-southwest. So this is more unsettled and potentially a little bit thundery as well. Potentially it's in line with what the CFS, what the ECM I should say, is showing, which is maybe second half of next week going a bit thundery with low pressure moving up from the south and from the southwest. It's certainly more unsettled compared to what the CFS has been showing for this week 2 period over recent days. So the CFS is the model that shifted a bit, I think. We talked about this discrepancy between the short range and the long range models over the past few updates, over the past few videos. Looks like the CFS has shifted more towards the shorter range, interestingly, for week 2. This is week 3. It's the 23rd to the 29th of July. This time the above average heights are back, sitting to our north. That's turning drier and warmer. Winds are going into the east, which of course in the latter part of July, easy winds can be quite hot. And then we're through to week 4, which is the 30th of July to the 5th of August. Above average heights, sort of focused to the north, northern blocking, hints of northern blocking anyway, maybe hints of a trough of low pressure somewhere around here underneath it. That happens, it's a relatively cool and wet start to August. So there's a lot to digest there, I think, within the next week or two. We're certainly going to be finding high pressure building in over the weekend to the early part of next week. So we go through 4 or 5 days, around Saturday through to Tuesday, something like that, of lots of dry and pretty warm weather as well. The middle part of next week looks like it's going to start to turn more showery, and then those showery conditions probably increasing through to the second half of next week. How that happens, there's discrepancy there. Will it be just sort of showery rain moving in from the Atlantic? Will it be potentially something a little bit more thundery getting involved and a little bit heavier with rainfall through the second half of next week? So that's something to keep an eye on. And then, of course, we've got for the final week of July, final week to 10 days, final week, just a few hints that we might start to turn things quite a lot hotter then through that final week of July. A few hints there, but it's a very, very long way off. Right, so that's it for your videos for today. We'll be back tomorrow with the 5-day forecast. Have another week to 10-day video update as well tomorrow, of course. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.